In saying that I pay my respects to the Aboriginal people, I'd also like to pay my respects to the pioneers that arrived here in the Northern Rivers over 100 years ago and began their farming and building their communities. My great-grandfather arrived in 1901, and I'm the fourth generation of my family to have lived on the Northern Rivers. The struggles that those original settlers went through are very similar to the struggles that many people in the alternate community have gone through when they have come into this area to live. For me, the Aquarius Festival was a wonderful thing. I didn't really get that infected, although Mum and Dad may disagree with that a little bit. Two of my uncles were born in Nimbin in 1915, and when the Aquarius Festival was on, we took a drive through, and Mum and Dad were horrified when I told them when I grew up I wanted to be a hippie. So I guess I was affected in some ways. They were even more horrified when I finished high school in Murwillumbah in 1975, and I was very fortunate to have some wonderful teachers that were brought here by the Aquarius Festival. These teachers actually come here and settled and did have a big impact on the local communities. I guess you would say I was from the straight community. I saw some ABC footage the other night and they showed the debutante ball, and I remember those debutante balls. I was one of those little girls that got all dressed up in the white frock and everything, and when I look back now I find it so embarrassing. But I also find it an important part of our community. I can't really get this working right, so... those communities worked really hard together. They had to, because there was nowhere else for them to go to. They had to work together and support each other. When my great-grandfather arrived here, he had 4 children and his wife, and they actually drove a sulky from Byron Bay to Tyalgum. And in those days there was no roads. I think the whole journey took about a week to actually get there. And then when they got there, they started clearing the land and began their dairying industry. So the farmers that first come and settled this region was so important to the development of our communities here. The farmers we have here today still continue to be important to our communities. I've sort of got a foot in both camps because I actually am from the original settlers family, and people that arrived in the 70s, my mum still says you've only been here 10 minutes, but we all know that that's not quite the case, that we're all working together as a community. For the last 2.5 years, I've been very involved in the coal seam gas fight, and during that fight, I've actually stepped onto both sides of that divide in the community. I work with a lot of local farmers that have been in this area for even longer than I have. Some of the families are 5th and 6th generation farmers in this area. And we've been able to work together and come together as a community for a very important cause. And that cause is to actually protect the land and the waters that we have here on the Northern Rivers. The threat that has been brought to us with the coal seam gas mining has actually brought our communities together like never before. I remember Ian Gaylard saying about this was the greatest threat since World War II. And in World War II, all our communities come together in the local community here and knitted socks. And now we find we've got the knitting nanas. I don't actually know if they've knitted any socks, but they're certainly doing a great job of educating people about the dangers of coal seam gas. And the many groups that have sprung up in the Northern Rivers in protest against gas, like the Kieron Gas Squad, the Northern Rivers CSG, Lismore CSG Free, the Rock Valley Gas Rangers, the Shannon Gas Defenders, the Rosebank communities. So this has actually been, in some ways, I hate to say it, a good thing for our community, that it's brought the communities together. It's brought people fighting together for the good of our country, to be able to protect the future for our children. I remember being involved in the Big Scrub Environment Centre many years ago here in Nimbin and talking about fighting for our children's children. Well, I didn't even actually have any children then, but now I have grandchildren, and that fight is still going on today. We're still continuing to have to work really hard to make governments take notice of us, of what we want in our communities. And our communities want a future that is free of chemicals and poisons in our waters, is free to be able to farm, to provide good, nutritious food for our families. And that's why I'm continuing to fight coal seam gas, and it's why I'm working with the communities. All those groups are coming together to fight for the one thing, to give us a much more sustainable future, a future that's full without fossil fuels and actually has renewable energy as the future for Australia. And that's what I'm personally working for to see. So I don't know whether it was the Aquarius Festival in Nimbin or not, but certainly my way of looking at things has certainly been a positive, well, I feel positive, maybe you don't agree with me, I'm not sure, but a positive way of looking at the environment and looking after the people in the environment for our future, so we have a sustainable future that we can be proud of as a community, and that we're willing to stand up and fight for against governments and multinational corporations that are trying to take our freedom, our food and our farms and families away from us. I think that's about all I wanted to say. It was an interesting time to actually, I was in second form high school in 1973 when the Aquarius Festival was on, and for me personally it was a wonderful experience, and I feel very glad that festival happened here on the Northern Rivers, and I feel very fortunate to have grown up in such a diverse and wonderful community full of such natural scenic beauty and full of communities that are prepared to support one another to provide for a better future for their families. Thank you.